Making headlines for this week of January 23rd. Geopolitical earthquake. Birthplace of democracy on the verge of radical change to the status quo of Europe. Dirty politicking. Israeli PM Netanyahu threatens ICC and spits in Obama's face. Global poker. Amidst the transforming financial landscape, the world awaits to see who is holding the aces and who was bluffing. And Internet from space. Tesla CEO Musk plans internet connectivity from space to fund his projects to Mars.
With news around, upon, within, and beyond our planet, the program making disclosure official. This is Cosmic Vision News. Here is Jeffrey West.
Greetings and blessings to all. On top of the geo-economic woes that are apparently starting to shake the foundations of the global cabal control in Europe and worldwide, we appear also to be on the cusp of a revolutionary geopolitical coup against the cabal, starting in the country of Greece. Greece, credited as being the home of democracy, appears to have an awakened population that now understands the lies and frauds that have been committed against them, and they are speaking with a growing unified voice and potentially unified vote in their general election coming this Sunday, the 25th. What the mainstream media is not reporting, and what they will not tell you, is what Dimitri Lascaris, a lawyer based in Athens and board member of the Real News Network, is about to tell TRNN host Sharmini Peres. This is a vote that is about to cause an earthquake in Europe, and the Syriza Party, a leftist party, is poised to potentially claim an absolute majority. More than this, however, is the message behind this potential outcome that has European leaders and global leaders, some of them, scared silly. The following from the Real News Network.
Welcome to the Real News Network. I'm Sharmini Peres coming to you from Baltimore. The coalition of the radical left Syriza Party is poised to win the parliamentary elections on January 25th in Greece. If Syriza wins, they could form the next government and confront the catastrophic austerity agenda that has plagued Greece and thrown it into a severe economic crisis. The possibility of Syriza-led government is sending chills down the spines of the European power centers in Berlin and in Paris and at the European Union headquarters in Brussels. Now joining us from Athens, exclusively reporting for the Real News, is one of our board members, Dimitri Lascaris. He's a partner with the Canadian law firm Siskins, where he heads the firm's securities class action practice. So, Dimitri, let's start by giving us some context of the left coalition and the parties and the forces at play.
I think maybe I should start by giving you a little bit of background at a high level of the political landscape as we approach Election Day on Sunday. The polls are showing that Syriza is in the lead and has a slightly widening margin and is on the cusp of the territory where they might get an absolute majority. And then in second place, by several percentage points off, is the New Democracy Party, which has dominated the austerity-oriented coalition. And then after that, there's a new party that styles itself as a centrist party, though people are having some difficulty understanding what it really stands for. It's called Topotami, which means the river. And then following that are the Golden Dawn, the extreme right party, and the Kappa Kappa Epsilon with KKE, which is the Communist Party, a very old-style Communist Party that's survived the demise of the Soviet Union. And I'm staying in Syntagma Square, which is right across from the Parliament building. And about a kilometer from here is another major square in Athens called Ammonia Square, which I think tends to be more of the area where the homeless and the more troubled members of Greek society congregate in Athens than Syntagma. And for some strange reason, the Communist Party and Syriza held their big Athens rallies prior to Election Day at precisely the same time, about a kilometer away from each other.
So, Dimitri, you just got back from a Syriza rally in Athens. Tell us more.
I left my hotel shortly before the rally was scheduled to begin at 7 p.m. I was about a kilometer away, as I say, and as I approached the square, I saw from quite a distance away a river of humanity sweeping up a boulevard towards the square, and people were waving various signs, many of which were quite pro-European and talked about changing not only Greece, but changing Europe for the better. But the first impression I had as I came into the square was that the messaging was very sophisticated. It was very tech-savvy. It was very young, which frankly caused me some concern because I've seen this act before in the 2008 election in the Obama campaign. But then as the crowd got nearer and that river of humanity swept by me, I noticed something which was really interesting. There was a large group of people carrying a flag over their heads. And as they went by, I heard a lot of Spanish and a lot of Italian and other languages, and realized that there were as many Italians and Spaniards and other Europeans underneath that flag as there were Greeks. And quickly what I began to realize as I was watching this is it was really a pan-European event and not being something that was strictly one for the Greek people. And as the event unfolded and Tsipras came out, the leader of the Syriza party, and began to speak, I really got the strong impression that that's what this is about. And what we've been hearing from the Western media about Syriza, which is that it's feigning a devotion to Europe in order to placate the Troika and not cause panic in the markets, that struck me as less and less credible as I was listening to the message of Tsipras. Tsipras, I think, quite genuinely believes that Syriza is an instance of a larger phenomenon that's taking place in Southern Europe, and that is the revival of the left and the revival of progressive values. And he genuinely believes, I think, and the party leadership genuinely believes, I don't think they harbor any illusions about this, but based on what I saw, I think they genuinely believe that they have an opportunity to change Europe for the better and to revive progressive values here.
And Dimitri, when you said you were hearing all these other languages like Spanish in the rally, who were they representing?
It was interesting. At one point, Tsipras pointed out a leader. I believe he was from Germany, and I believe he was a labor leader. And he commented at that point, which was quite surprising to me, given the invective you heard from Syriza, and understandably so, about the Merkel regime and its fanatical devotion to austerity. He said, "We believe that the German people are with us. The leadership of Germany is not with us, but the people of Germany are with us." And then he introduced someone from Spain, I believe, who was also a labor leader. And at the very end, and this was sort of the climax of his presentation, he seemed to stop the speech, and there was a pause and there was some music, and then he came back to the podium and he said, "Now I'd like to introduce to you Pablo Iglesias, who is the leader of Podemos." And Podemos, I think, can aptly be described as the Spanish cousin of Syriza. It's a very progressive-oriented, highly anti-austerity party that has grown very rapidly in Spain and is now poised to upset the balance of power in Spain, which has been dominated by the Social Democrats, or what have historically been described as the Social Democrats and the Conservative Party that's currently in power. They have the opportunity to do what Syriza seems to be on the cusp of doing, and that is to seize power in a major European country, much larger European country with a much larger economy than Greece. And he came to the podium, and his message was highly supportive of Syriza and very similar to that of Syriza, which is that this is a pan-European movement. This is not about patriotism. In fact, we are anti-patriots. We don't believe that your ethnicity is what governs your rights. We believe that we are all equally entitled to certain basic benefits and protections from the state, and we've been deprived those, and we're going to work together to achieve them again. That I thought was very refreshing and very different and uniquely European compared to what I had experienced when I myself got sort of swept up in the Obama campaign back in 2008. That was a very nationalistic campaign, despite its progressive or superficially progressive credentials. This is not nationalistic at all. This is really a pan-European movement as far as I can tell.
And quite contrary to how Syriza has been painted in the mainstream press as somebody who's willing and wanting to exit the euro and be more nationalistic and less European.
Sure, absolutely. And in fact, one of the interesting things that isn't being told about Syriza, you hear that it's radical left, you hear that it's viscerally opposed to the austerity program, which it certainly is. You don't hear about the other aspects of its program. And one of the things that's really irked the right wing in this country, and this was something that came out in Tsipras' speech tonight, is that they really have a lot of sympathy for the immigrant community in Greece, a large immigrant population that has been persecuted by the right, often viciously over the last several years. They want to legalize these people. They want to give them protection. They don't want to, and another thing they don't want to do is that for a number of years there was a rather silly dispute about the name of the Republic of Macedonia, which the right in this country shamelessly exploited. This is something that doesn't get Syriza worked up at all. They don't see those people the people who occupy or who reside in the Macedonian Republic as being less entitled to their own cultural identity than the Greeks are. And so, again, this is something that's got the right quite worked up, but the message that's being missed, the reality that's being missed is that this is a very anti-nationalistic party. And that's something that Europe desperately needs at the moment throughout the continent, not only in Greece.
So, Dimitri, at the Syriza rally, what is it that Alexis Tsipras emphasized?
Well, he said some things which, as a Westerner, I found rather surprising and refreshingly so. For example, he said that the moment he takes office, they will enact a law which precludes banks from owning the houses of Greeks and people who live here. So I'm not sure exactly what he has in mind. It sounds as though if somebody falls into arrears on their mortgage payments, an option that would not be available to the bank is to seize the home. Not something you've ever heard come out of the mouth of a mainstream Western politician. He talked about eliminating homelessness altogether, not simply reducing, but actually eliminating it. Again, not something you hear from the mouths of Western mainstream politicians nowadays. He talked about taking the guns away from the police force, which have been roundly condemned for their impunity and their extremist attitude towards the immigrant population, in particular by Amnesty International. Again, you don't hear that much in the West at all. People would be horrified in the West, mainstream politicians, at the suggestion that officers shouldn't carry firearms. He talked about making education available, affordable to everyone. And the phrase that he used was, no child should be without a book that he or she needs. I think it's fair to say that it's all about anti-austerity in the press, but really what's going on is if this party takes power, and if it does achieve a large part of its agenda, which undoubtedly will be very difficult, it will be, bar none, the most progressive government in Europe and in North America. I think that that's what has the North and the Troika particularly worked up, is they think that what they may be seeing is something similar to what happened in Latin America after the excesses of the Reagan years, where there was a number of progressive movements rose to power throughout South America and Central America. They're very concerned about that, and I think rightly so. If your perspective is that the world should be shamelessly neoliberal, then you are not going to want to see a party like Syriza come to power in the European state.
The full 13-minute interview will be available from a link that will appear in the show summary. Laskaris mentioned the influence of the Troika on Greece. For those new to this term, he is referring to the unelected leaders of the European Parliament, the European Council, and the European Central Bank. These are the three who have been imposing all of the controls and austerity upon the poorer peoples and nations of the European Union, the same thing that is now happening with Ukraine. Tyler Durden, in an article submitted to Zero Hedge, has reported, although this has not yet been confirmed elsewhere, that Russia has allegedly made an offer to help Greece should the country exit the EU. The Greek people appear ready now to tell the leaders that they are fed up, and they appear to have the overwhelming support of the population to make it happen, and also show the world what a revolution looks like when people are willing to stand and speak together. What's more is that they have allies in other countries, such as Spain, as Laskaris said, and they have the potential for the same dramatic change. The people of North America and Western Europe who are content to settle back into their lives as enslaved sheep, I say this to you all. This is what the new revolution looks like, folks. In other geopolitical news, it seems that the leadership of Israel is up to its usual tricks again. Both Press TV and Veterans Today have reported that Israel has launched what is effectively a threat against the International Criminal Court, the ICC, if it proceeds with Palestine's charges of war crimes against Israel. First, this report from Press TV.
Israel is lobbying key member states of the International Criminal Court to cut funding for the tribunal over its decision to probe war crimes against Palestinians. Foreign Minister Avigdor Lieberman says Israel will ask Canada, Germany, Japan, and Australia to stop funding the ICC. Lieberman described the International Court as a political body which represents no one. He also said that the ICC should be dismantled as there is no justification for its existence. The reaction comes after the Hague-based court announced that it will look into Israeli crimes, including those committed during its devastating aggression on the Gaza Strip last year. The blitz left more than 2,100 Palestinians dead.
The Israeli International Criminal Court has decided to open a preliminary inquiry into war crimes committed by Israel against the Palestinian people. In reaction, the United States has condemned the decision as a tragic irony. The Palestinian Authority says it's an important and positive step towards justice.
We hope this decision would prevent Israeli generals from committing more crimes against our people. Now, any Palestinians harmed by Israeli forces in any means have the right to claim at the ICC, and we do not have to wait until the 1st of April. We have the right to complain because Israel has exceeded all limits, and no one is preventing it from committing crimes. If we remain silent, we would commit a crime against ourselves.
In Israel's eyes, the ICC's decision is scandalous. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said that the inquiry shows the tribunal is part of the problem and not the solution. Foreign Minister Avigdor Lieberman thinks the ICC is trying to harm Israel's right to defend itself against terror.
Both. They are war criminals. And we have to note that the occupation itself is the biggest terror in the world. And so both, they are really afraid from what's going on in the World Crime Committee. We have to expect more blockade at the Palestinian people from the Israeli side, also from the American side, more hard reactions at the Palestinian people.
The ICC handles matters related to war crimes, crimes against humanity and genocide, and could exercise jurisdiction over crimes committed by anyone in the occupied territories. This means ICC prosecutor would investigate Tel Aviv's war on Gaza Strip in summer 2014, during which more than 2,300 Palestinians, mostly civilians, were killed. The Palestinians affirmed that seeking to bring Israeli troops and officials, the perpetrators of such crimes, to justice means honoring the victims and protecting others from becoming victims in the future amid non-stop aggression by the Israeli forces against Palestinians. Munaqadeen for TV, occupies Ramallah.
The Veterans Today article from January 16th has noted that the preliminary hearing is not officially a full hearing, but rather an inquiry to determine whether the findings will merit a full investigation into alleged atrocities committed by Israel. Veterans Today continues by adding that UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon has recently confirmed that the Palestinians will formally become a member of the ICC on April the 1st, and the court officials said that jurisdiction would date back to June 13, 2014. This means the court's prosecutor could investigate the 50-day war between Israel and Palestinian groups in the Gaza Strip in July and August of 2014, during which more than 2,300 Palestinians, mostly civilians, were killed, according to Gazan medical sources. Israel has said 67 soldiers and 6 civilians died in the same war. The ICC handles war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide. It could exercise jurisdiction over such crimes committed by anyone on Palestinian territory. Israel is not an ICC member, but its citizens could be tried on accusations of crimes. A Reuters News Service article from January 18th has reported that the overwhelming bulk of the court's funding comes from the advanced economies of Europe and North Asia. Japan is the largest contributor, giving 20.4 million euros in 2014, followed by Germany, which gave 13.5 million. France, Britain, and Italy are also major contributors to the ICC's budget, which will rise 7% to 141 million euros in 2015. Canada contributed 5.6 million. But even countries that were traditionally close to Israel were unlikely to renege on their treaty commitments to fund the ICC, said Kevin John Heller, professor of law at London's School of Oriental and African Studies. Germany is probably the least likely country in the world to go against the ICC, no matter how supportive of Israel it has traditionally been, he added. It was one of the very leading states in the creation of the ICC. Reuters has reported the Islamist group Hamas as welcoming the ICC inquiry. Hamas has been declared a terrorist group by Israel and the West, and the group says it is prepared to provide material for complaints against Israel. With all the money that is received by Israel from the United States and also from Germany and other countries, it is little surprise that their international lobbying group wields so much power. 3 years ago, in an article by Ude Basharat for Israel's Haaretz News website on February 5th of 2012, Basharat had written the following at that time. "We have a prime minister who was elected thanks mainly to donations from abroad. Some 98% of the donations that Benjamin Netanyahu received for the Likud primaries of 2005 came from foreign donors, most of them American. They also helped the citizens of Israel choose the correct candidate with the aid of a partisan press. The American billionaire Sheldon Adelson, who of course has a warm Jewish heart, determines the social and political agenda of Israel by means of a far-right newspaper that he funds, which is distributed free. From time to time, we also hear reports of the various kinds of perks the Prime Minister enjoys, provided by these same wealthy donors. The paradox here is that some of the representatives appointed by these wealthy men from abroad have the gall to take action to stop funding from nonpartisan civilian NGOs that contribute to society through human rights and pro-democracy activities. Because of the money it wields and its organizational capability, the Jewish lobby is able to influence candidates for the American presidency, swaying them to fall in line with the most extremist policies that Israel has ever adopted. And by relying on the influence of the Jewish lobby, the Netanyahu government is continuing to show contempt for international law. This lobby is the perfect gift for the anti-Semites who use this conduct as an excuse for attacking, quote-unquote, the Jews. The truth is that without even noticing it, the Arabs have reconciled themselves to Israel's existence despite the terrible suffering inflicted upon them. The problem is that many Israelis have not reconciled themselves to being here. At the moment, the Jewish lobby has drawn up a treaty with U.S. neoconservatives against anything that smells of freedom in the Middle East. The time has come to make a decision. If the goal is integration into the region, then it is essential to break away from the Jewish lobby. The neocons in the U.S. can continue to fan the flames of fear and hatred, but what do they care? As Basharat notes, it is not the blood of their children that will be spilled in the Middle Eastern jungle, nor will the cries of pain of Arabs and Jews reach them behind the closed windows of the towers in Manhattan. Keep in mind that this was written back in 2012, and only now it is perhaps starting to sink in. Really sink in. Take, for example, a Press TV article from January 23rd. Here is how much power Netanyahu wields over the U.S. Congress. The Press TV article reported that a senior U.S. official says Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spat in our face by accepting an invitation to address the U.S. Congress without coordinating with President Barack Obama. There are things you simply don't do. He spat in our face publicly, and that's no way to behave, the unnamed senior U.S. official told Haaretz newspaper. Netanyahu ought to remember that President Obama has a year and a half left to his presidency and that there will be a price, the official said. U.S. House of Representatives Speaker John Boehner on Wednesday invited Netanyahu to address a joint session of Congress next month, an invitation the White House called a departure from protocol. Hours after Obama threatened to veto any Iran sanctions legislation, during his State of the Union address on Tuesday, Boehner said that he had invited Netanyahu to address the issue. The question, or questions, that beg to be asked at this point might be these. How is a Republican Speaker of the U.S. Congress allowed to invite a foreign leader to address a decision-making body without the consent from the President? 2. Since the issue involved Iran, why was an Israeli leader even invited to address the issue to Congress, unless there is a political gain to be had in going behind the back of the President to address the bought and paid-for politicians supporting the Zionist agenda? The article continues by writing that analysts say Netanyahu has destroyed the interpersonal channel with Obama and created an unprecedented rift in their relations. Obama has also warned Netanyahu to stop encouraging U.S. congressmen to pass new sanctions legislation against Iran. Coming so quickly after a very positively received State of the Union address in which Obama put out several shots to the Republicans, Boehner attempted a shot of his own to discredit the president and remind him that the Republicans control the House. Not exactly the example of bipartisan cooperation that Obama was asking for and willing to give. In financial news for this week, we continue to observe the fallout and the potential further fallout resulting from the global economic meltdown that seems to now have started. For those who are even remotely able to envision the bigger picture playing out with all these events happening, one can only marvel at how the global cabal has been apparently led to the galley and is now witnessing its grand creation beginning to implode upon itself. This, while the rest of humanity marvels at how long it has taken for them to awaken to the lies, frauds, and crimes that have been committed against them by leaders, corporations, media, politicians, bankers, lawyers, and more. It was a grand scam, but the scam is unraveling in surprising ways, either positive or negative, depending upon the perspective one chooses to take about the events that are unfolding at this time. Peter Schiff, the CEO of Euro-Pacific Capital, shares some insights from two of his more recent interviews, one with Bloomberg and the other with MSNBC. In this first clip, he talks about China possibly following in the footsteps of the Swiss National Bank, and the second, he addresses the currency market shockwaves that are coming.
You've warned your investors that Switzerland's relationship to the euro is just a microcosm of what China's relationship is to the U.S. dollar. What do you mean by that?
Well, first of all, it's very rare that a central bank actually does something right. And fortunately, Switzerland did that, although I guess it's important to point out that what they did right was fix their own mistake. But China has been making the same mistake that Switzerland made, only for a long time, with the dollar. You see, the Swiss decided to put a ceiling on their currency to prevent it from rising against the euro, to preserve supposedly their export markets in Europe, because they were afraid that a rising franc would price them out of these markets. Well, China's been operating under the same principle. They think that they have to preserve their export market to the United States, and so they have a floor on the yuan. They're preventing their currency from rising, and just like Switzerland, they have trillions now in foreign reserves. They have bought all these dollars to prevent their currency from rising, but really what they've done is transfer purchasing power from their own citizens to Americans, and I think eventually they're going to get tired of throwing good money after bad, just like the Swiss, and they will remove the ceiling, and just like the Swiss franc, the Chinese yuan will soar in value against the dollar to the benefit of the Chinese people.
Okay, but what would the ripple effect look like?
Well, it would mean that a lot more of China's production would be consumed by Chinese people. They would get to enjoy the fruits of their labor, and Americans would be denied a lot of those products because we would be priced out of the market. And also, the value of Chinese savings would rise, their real incomes would rise. You would have consumer prices declining in China, which would be a boom for the Chinese economy, because as consumer prices go down, you experience an increase in your standard of living commensurate with a decline in your cost of living.
Well, Peter, it all sounds so good. Why isn't China doing it?
I don't know. I've been trying to figure it out for a long time. I mean, obviously, they're trying to preserve the status quo. And there certainly are factions that benefit from this relationship. I think no one benefits more than the United States, because we enjoy a massive subsidy at the expense of China. But, politicians, and even though a lot of the Chinese politicians aren't elected, I guess they still are worried about certain things. And so they're trying to preserve the status quo. But ultimately, this is undermining the standard of living of the broad population in China. And I think eventually China is going to change this policy. I think they're already preparing for a post-dollar world. I think they've been accumulating gold. We don't really know how much they've bought, but I think they're trying to buy as much gold as they can to have something other than dollars. backing up their currency when they do float it.
I think we are all seeing that, and I think it is inevitability here for a lot of people watching what exactly is happening in China. But of course, it's going to displace a lot of power players in this global economy of ours. I mean, you say it's going to be like a 10 on the economic Richter scale, but who are going to be the big losers here?
Well, as I said, in the short run, the United States, because we are the major beneficiary of this Chinese subsidy, because American consumers enjoy a higher standard of living. We get to consume without producing, and we get to borrow a lot of the Chinese savings, so we get to live in this phony economy. So in the short run, it's going to be very damaging to the U.S. Long term, I think it's the best thing that can happen to us, because I think the longer the Chinese wait to remove this subsidy, the worse it's going to be for us. On the other side, China, Southeast Asia, there are going to be a lot of people in these emerging markets that are going to see an enhanced standard of living, because as their currencies rise, so too does their purchasing power. You know, all the factories that exist in China, they're not going to go away if Americans are too poor to buy the products. The products are still going to be produced. They're just going to be produced for the Chinese consumers rather than for the American consumers. And China is going to be a lot better off with their products than our paper money. Because, you know, what good are the trillions of dollars that the central bank is warehousing doing to the average Chinese citizen? They're not doing any good at all. All they can do with them is buy treasuries, and when they mature, they have to roll them over into more treasuries. And when they get interest, they have to buy treasuries with that. They can't spend any of this money. And I think Switzerland was staring into the abyss, and they looked at the prospect of having to buy up even more euros now that Europe is going to be doing quantitative easing, and they didn't want to do it. Well, we're going to be doing QE4 probably before the end of the year, and China's going to be faced with a similar decision, because if we do QE4, and I think we will, and I think it's going to be bigger than QE1, 2, and 3 combined, we're going to expect the Chinese to buy the lion's share of those dollars, and I don't think they want to do it.
Peter, great to talk to you. Thanks so much for being with us. As you look ahead to the ECB meeting, and as we look back to what the Swiss National Bank has already done, what is your take in terms of central bank policy and the impact it has on the global economy?
Well, I think any nation that undergoes quantitative easing is ultimately damaging its economy. Sometimes you don't see the effects right away because QE can often lift financial markets, and that gives a false impression that the quantitative easing is actually helping. But it's really hurting. It's undermining the economy. It's distorting investments, resources, savings, consumption, and it's helping to grow government, which generally undermines economic growth. So it's not good for the man on the street. Maybe it's good for some of the speculators, but hopefully there'll be enough pressure from Germany now without the backing of the Swiss to prevent a full-blown QE in Europe.
Now, Peter, you say that QE undermines the economy, but take a look at the near 6-year rally we've had in the U.S. I mean, isn't that mostly from liquidity and QE?
Yes, but you're talking about the rally in the stock market, not the economy. I would argue that the U.S. economy is in a much weaker position today than it was 6 years ago. We've destroyed good jobs. Our labor force has collapsed. Debt has skyrocketed. Real wages are falling. And I think we're on the precipice of a worse economic crisis than the one we had in 2008, thanks to all this quantitative easing.
Well, for many years, been saying that the dollar is not somewhere you want to be, even though we've seen the rebound. But what are your thoughts on the euro then?
Well, you know, it's not one of my favorite currencies. I've been advocating for years for people to own Swiss francs instead of euros because I knew at some point they would have to drop the peg. In fact, the first day they launched it, I said it was a mistake and they would have to get rid of it when they were tired of throwing away their money. So I'm not a big fan of the euro, but against the dollar, I think the euro is going to rally. I think it's way oversold. I think the idea of QE in Europe being a fait accompli is wrong. I think QE4 that we're going to do in the U.S. is going to be much bigger and much more destructive to our economy than anything that they do in Europe.
We're looking ahead to the 2016 elections. Do you expect brighter things for the U.S. economy outside of what the central bank has tried to achieve if we have political change in the U.S., at least in the White House?
Unfortunately, I don't expect brighter things, and I don't think we're going to have political change until after we have a real economic catastrophe. Fortunately, one is coming, so that may be the catalyst at some point. But right now, as long as the central bankers can monetize our debts, as long as foreign governments will keep buying dollars to facilitate that, then there's no real impetus for us to change. We'll keep on piling debt on debt because there's no reason not to. We don't feel the consequences in higher interest rates or a currency collapse. But when those things happen, and they will happen, then maybe our politicians in the United States will ultimately be forced to do the right thing. But before that, we're going to keep on borrowing as much money as the world is foolish enough to lend us.
Other financial pundits have offered their own thoughts to other news sites. Gerald Celente told King World News on January 15th that the Swiss move was only the beginning of a much larger global meltdown. Jim Willey on SilverDoctors.com said that the Swiss move would trigger a massive derivative crisis with the potential of destroying the euro. Michael Santoli, in a Yahoo Finance news article on January 15th, addresses a question that may be more relevant to most people. Why should the Swiss central bank actions matter to you? Essentially, it comes down to the fact that Swiss products and services will be becoming more expensive. Those who travel to the Swiss Alps, for example, will find that some resorts have already adjusted their prices. There is more to it, however. Santoli writes, the central impact of the Swiss National Bank decision to cease suppressing the value of the franc is to upend popular financial market bets and add pressure to an already struggling Eurozone economy. As fund manager Luke Bartholomew of Aberdeen and Asset Management puts it, Switzerland's problem is that it is almost too credible as a safe haven. People desperately want to hold the currency to shield themselves from the risks they see elsewhere, particularly in the euro area. A less tangible but undeniable result of the Swiss move is to deepen the sense that the world's central banks are increasingly desperate to experiment in a bid to control currencies, capital flows, and economic fortunes. With so much money in motion, and now skittish thanks to the Swiss National Bank's reversal of a policy it avowed just weeks ago, the main concern is that the unintended economic consequences could be significant. That last statement is worth paying attention to for a moment. Pundits and media make statements like this to scare people. Perhaps they are scared also because they are seeing their current paradigm of profits, fiat currencies, and global control slipping from their hands. Statements like these are designed to scare people back into the old paradigm of debt, fear, and control. The news about the Swiss action cannot be so bad if China still has faith in Switzerland. It is also a sign that something else is going on in the background, despite the Western media fear-mongering. In an article appearing on the BricsPost.com website on January 21st, this article reports that as China takes its currency global, Zurich is set to become a center for yuan trading in Europe, with Chinese and Swiss officials poised to sign a financial deal on Wednesday. A memorandum of understanding will be signed between the central banks of the two countries during Chinese Premier Li Keqiang's visit to Switzerland. It is an important step in the internationalization of the renminbi, especially in Europe. A government official was quoted by Chinese news agency Xinhua. Switzerland is basing its push for the offshore yuan business on the country's close ties with China, one of the nation's biggest trading partners. Switzerland is the first country among the world's top 20 to have a free trade agreement with China. We can choose to bite the bullet now and take the hit and some pain while creating something better, or we can continue to put our collective heads under the pillow and pretend that nothing is happening and that it will magically resolve itself, or at least restore itself to a state where people can recognize the old structure again. As Schiff has said, this is not going to happen. So the sooner that the changes get underway, the sooner that the people find the courage to stand up and speak out while holding leaders accountable, the sooner that people can make the choices to move forward in co-creating the new earth, and the faster it can manifest. For the benefit of humanity and our planet, we hold the vision and anchor the energies of positive and peaceful transformation, a transformation that will happen as quickly, as comfortably, and as safely as possible for all those who are choosing to experience this event in this way for the highest good of all. In general news for the week, there has been both speculation and alleged proof that these ISIS killings are real. I am of the firm belief that they are fake and staged. The latest reports coming out of ISIS are only further proving how ridiculously fake these staged killings really are. Case and point. ABC News in the U.S. recently published a story on its news website. The article, dated on January 19th, writes the following. 2 men kneel in orange jumpsuits in the desert as a black-clad figure speaks to the camera, waving a knife and threatening their lives, demanding an astronomical sum of money in return for their freedom. It's a setup that Westerners are familiar with since the on-camera executions of several American and British journalists and aid workers at the hands of the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, or ISIS, otherwise also known as the Israeli Secret Intelligence Service. But this is the first video of its kind in weeks, and this time it's 2 Japanese men who are threatened. Benjamin Fulford has written in his weekly update messages that Israel and the global cabal have been putting intense pressure on cabal puppet Shinzo Abe to kick out payments to the cabal to fund their activities. There have been allegations that looting of bank accounts of Japanese citizens was going to begin, if not already begun. The latest ISIS video may merely be the public spectacle to try to hide and cover up the loss of Japanese money to the cabal. In responding to the video, according to the article, White House spokesperson Josh Earnest said the video was further evidence of the deplorable tactics of this extremist group. The problem is that Earnest and many others did not see the glaring error exposing the video as a hoax. The link will be in the show summary. If one moves down in the ABC article to where the picture of the 2 Japanese men are, look closely, very closely, at the picture. This picture is allegedly outside. Therefore, there would only be one light in the sky, and this would be the sun. The sun would be in the same relative position to both men as they are so close together. How is it possible then that the head shadow on the neck of one man is different than the shadow on the neck of the other? For the man on the right, the sun would have to be further off to the right to create a shadow on the left side of his face, our left side or his right side. For the other man on the left, the sun would have to be further off on the left to create a shadow on the right side of the face, or our right side and his left side. I'm willing to bet that a green screen was used as a backdrop with a desert image put up. Studio lights are what created the head shadows. Intelligent people catching very ridiculous errors in attempts to stage fear-mongered events to scare the world. Speak up, people, and start calling out journalists who report this stuff, and start calling out politicians who try to use this stuff to justify spending your tax dollars on events that are not really happening, but are more than likely being funneled into projects to further attempt to control and enslave humanity and destroy the planet for profit, power, and control. So this past week, we had the annual State of the Union address given by President Obama. In all honesty, I was fully prepared to just skip over this, partly because I felt that it contained mostly political rhetoric that I understand Obama must give in order to protect himself and his public position. Although I personally feel that something else is taking place in the background, some of the things that were said could lead many to taking a more negative position against him. There were, however, some positive insights that I have decided to share, and the reason I decided this was because of something that happened near the end of his speech that even I did not catch on to at first. An article by Alan Clifton, appearing in the forwardprogressives.com website on January 20th, wrote the following. I don't care what you think of his policies or the man himself, but there's no denying that he knows how to give one hell of a speech. But we just witnessed the president showcase exactly why he's so much more intelligent than the Republican Party. When I listen to Republicans talk, their vision is so simplistic and outdated, it's the same old crap. Tax cuts, deregulation, secure the border, random, support our troops reference, Keystone XL pipeline, repeat the word jobs a lot, and that's about it. There's nothing substantial about anything they say or do. There's no vision or plan. It's just the same exact rhetoric they've been using for almost 40 years. Clifton points out his belief as to why Obama is simply more intelligent than the GOP. Clifton adds the following: when Obama speaks, he speaks in the context of the bigger picture. That sounds familiar. Clifton continues, it's something the GOP just seems unable to comprehend. He understands that education, health care, child care, equal rights, women's rights, immigration reform, and programs to build the middle class are vital for the future of this country, not tax cuts that don't do anything but help the rich while putting the burden of running this country on the backs of the poor and middle class. But when I listen to the president speak, it's on a whole other level of intelligence. It's someone who's speaking about progress and moving this country forward, someone who understands that it's not just about what matters today, tomorrow, or even next month. It's about 5, 10, 20 years from now. From the video of the speech, one example is this. When Obama addressed the issue of equal wages for women in the workplace, Vice President Joe Biden stood up with many in a standing ovation. Beside him, Speaker of the House, Republican John Boehner, did not stand up. As soon as Obama addressed the issue of more military action to fight ISIS, however, he was up on his feet and in standing ovation. Obama may be having trouble achieving his vision with all the cabal controls in Washington, but he has at least laid out a vision that has a deeper humanity to it than what the Republican Party has historically stood for. For those who are truly interested in reviewing the State of the Union address, there is an article on the Vox.com news website from January 20th that highlights the major policy statements made by Obama and what they might mean for the U.S. Obama's policy statements focused on paid sick leave, wages, free college, infrastructure, trade, health care, the internet, taxes, Russia, Cuba, Iran, cybersecurity, Asia, climate change, Guantanamo, the NSA, criminal justice, and a couple of others. Vox.com reporter Ezra Klein offers a synopsis of what he felt were the 6 most important sentences in the whole address. The links to both of these articles will be in the show summary. Now, I admit I do not personally resonate with everything that Obama addressed, even though I am still holding a vision that there is a reason for him to still be playing the game with the global cabal. I also do not resonate with all of the points offered by Klein in his article, but I suspect that they will resonate with many. That is what truth is. It is relevant to each individual in each moment of now, and this is part of the uniquely different yet equally beautiful aspect of that each of us is in the oneness of life. The moment that seems to have ignited everyone's attention, however, was an ad-libbed comment in response to Republican heckling when Obama said that he has no further campaigns to run. Republicans in the audience clapped, interpreting this as a signal that their happiness that he won't be around again.
That's what the American people want. That's what they deserve. I have no more campaigns to run. My only agenda, I know because I won both of them.
A RawStory.com article by Arturo Garcia reported that Twitter exploded shortly after the address with people acknowledging the shot that Obama took at Republicans. Ben Mathis-Lilly of Slate.com in his article of the incident called it an instantly legendary ad-libbed burn on Republicans. Ezra Klein's report on Obama's 6 key sentences also notes how confident Obama is feeling at this time, despite what is going on globally. I personally would suspect that Obama is fully aware of what is happening, and I am still of the feeling that Obama and Putin are at some level working together to bring down the control of the global cabal, and only now are pieces starting to fall into place where the world can begin to see what is happening, even if they may not fully understand it yet. This, however, is only my personal feeling, and I do not ask listeners to share that feeling if it does not resonate within their hearts in this moment of now. In disclosure-related news this week, we take a look at what will eventually become a trend, assuming that the people are ready to demand this from their future politicians. Although few and far between, a few politicians are beginning to demonstrate a willingness to bank their political future on the growing trend of people who believe that life exists beyond Earth and that contact has been ongoing with certain groups of humans by civilizations beyond Earth. An article appearing on the independentpoliticalreport.com website on January the 7th has written that Robert Burke, author, executive director, and 2014 candidate for governor of Wisconsin, appeared as a guest on The Rundown Live, an alternative talk radio station based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and KGUD-FM in Denver, and he called for U.S. government ET-UFO disclosure. Longtime CVN listeners will recall the initiative that the city of Denver undertook in 2010 to have a referendum on the creation of an extraterrestrial affairs commission in that city. Although the initiative was not successful, Denver entrepreneur Jeff Peckman, who was leading the campaign, said that the initiative would establish an extraterrestrial affairs commission responsible for collecting and sharing evidence that extraterrestrials are visiting Earth and for assessing the risks and benefits of making contact with those aliens. The reason it's important is that this needs to start somewhere. It's not starting anywhere, at the federal level or state level or any other level of government, Peckman said. In this country, we believe this could very well be a citizen's task. It will be the citizens who are willing to stand up and speak for the issue who will be the ones to signal to an appropriate potential candidate to stand for the issue of disclosure, such as Burke has now done. It is expected that more and more will do so, but this could be accelerated with a greater collective push from the people. Will the next U.S. presidential campaign bring disclosure to the table? There is at least one possible sign to suggest this. In a portion of an interview given by Stephen Bassett of the Paradigm Research Group a few months back and played on CVN last October 24th, Bassett described Hillary and Bill Clinton's connection to the Rockefeller Initiative related to the disclosure of ETs connected with the famed Roswell incident. Pay particular attention to Bassett's mention of both John Podesta and Hillary Clinton.
Then think about this for a second. On the internet, going all the way back to 2000, jacked heavily up by the fact that Podesta himself called for the release of UFO files in 2002-2003. The Clintons have been repeatedly connected to the ET issue through the Rockefeller Initiative and documents that are posted on 2 websites and other websites. You don't believe me? Put Rockefeller Initiative into Google, right, and go to images and do the image search. They're right there. They've been up there for 14 years. Podesta calls for the release of UFO files twice. Right, what happened? He made a transition, came to Obama. How many people have read an article or seen a Drudge report on any of the right-wing websites or even Rush Limbaugh attacking the Clintons over the UFO connection? No, they never have. They should have slaughtered them over it. They should have dropped bombs on them. It should have been pretty spectacular. Why is that? Believe me, these things don't happen by accident. The reason the Republicans have tried to eviscerate Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton and thus help to secure their positions, maybe even win the election of 2008, is because the Republicans know there's an ET presence just like you do, and I do. The Republicans at the high end are heavily connected to the military intelligence complex. That's their boys and girls over there. You don't think that generals, particularly those in the military intelligence people that have connections to the Republicans in the Senate Intelligence Committee, haven't taken to lunch sometime and say, you know, the ET issue is real, don't you? They know it's real. So if they were to attack Hillary and Bill Clinton on the ET issue and try to destroy them because they're tinfoil hat-wearing believers, and Vladimir Putin the next week announced the ET presence was here, it would be a catastrophe. And so they don't say anything except that little Fox News segment, yeah, which, you know, I think they just couldn't resist, you know, kind of tossed it out, but boy, they never followed up on it.
So what do we see happening right now? An article by Dylan Scott appearing on the Talking Points Memo website on January 13th has reported that John Podesta, currently a top advisor to President Obama, will sign on as senior advisor to Hillary Clinton after he leaves the White House next month, the Wall Street Journal reported on Tuesday. The report, attributed to 3 people familiar with the move, confirms what has long been suspected, that Podesta, once chief of staff to Bill Clinton, will play a prominent role in the presidential campaign that Hillary is expected to announce in the coming months. Back in September, Politico reported that Podesta had informally met with those leading the pro-Clinton campaign and was widely expected to be tapped as campaign chair if Clinton decided to run. What this article did not pick up on was this. In another article by Colin Campbell of Business Insider UK on January 15th, Campbell wrote that Hillary Clinton's expected campaign chairman has an eclectic record that includes UFO advocacy and having to apologize for comparing Republicans to killer cultists. Podesta, also a former aide in President Clinton's administration, as mentioned moments ago, took a number of steps to promote government transparency on the issue of UFOs. He wrote the foreword to the 2010 book, UFOs, Generals, Pilots, and Government Officials Go on the Record. He also spoke at a 2002 press conference calling on the U.S. to declassify UFO records.
Former Chief of Staff, John Podesta. Podesta, also an advisor to President Obama, spoke at a 2002 press conference organized by the Coalition for Freedom of Information.
I think it's time to open the books on questions that have remained in the dark, on the question of government investigations of UFOs. It's time to find out what the truth really is that's out there. We ought to do it really because it's right. We ought to do it because the American people, quite frankly, can handle the truth. And we ought to do it because it's the law.
Podesta was also quoted as having said that, as someone interested in the question of UFOs, I think I have always understood the difference between fact and fiction. I guess you could call me a curious skeptic. But I'm skeptical about many things, including the notion that government always knows best. Podesta wrote, the time to pull the curtain back on this subject is long overdue. Even President Obama has told the U.S. people that they have to push for what they want. In a posting on her blog from October 24th of last year, Nancy Detweiler shared an audio clip of both Jeff Peckman, mentioned moments ago, and Obama, addressing disclosure and the will of the people to get involved.
Now, right now, Obama's not saying anything. He's not responding. But I can assure you, he got to where he is because of community organization, community organizing. And he's counting on that continuance of community organizing to implement various programs that he has on his agenda. I don't think, well, I do believe that Obama will get involved in this disclosure effort, but not until we do, in a real visible way.
And let me say this as a politician. I can promise you this. Political leaders will never take risks if the people do not push them to take some risks. You must create the change that you want to see. Ordinary people can accomplish extraordinary things. I know this is possible.
It is possible because this is what we are witnessing in Greece and also in Spain. Given the deteriorating condition of the global economy in light of the truths being revealed over the past year and the continued awakening of humanity, it is virtually certain that the economy in its present form cannot and will not continue. 2015 appears to be shaping up as a promise that significant change will soon be seen, if it is not already noticeable by the mainstream public. Therefore, something else will have to happen also, if the people are really wanting to create that which they are claiming to want to create. Many are already courageously standing up and speaking out as an example to others. The stage is being set for a U.S. presidential election in 2016 that could place the issue of disclosure very firmly on the agenda, if the people will demand it, and if those already in power begin to feel the call to push for it, such as people like John Podesta. At this time, it could be argued that the Clintons, and especially Hillary, are tied to the global cabal. As Bassett has suggested, however, the issue of the existence of ET life is well known to the Clintons and to Podesta, and also to the Republicans. Will Podesta and Clinton push that button? Will Obama push that button and force the issue onto the agenda in 2016? Will Russia or another country take the lead? Evidence seems to suggest that it is going to happen one way or another, and the accelerant to this slow-burning fire will be how people respond to it and stand up for it. We can be the oxygen that ignites a blazing fire of disclosure. Included in the show summary will be the links to 2 sites having more information on the Rockefeller Initiative. This is what the new revolution looks like, folks. In tech news for this week, we take another look at an individual who appears to be sincere and genuine in his desire to help move humanity forward. From within the purely 3D paradigm of thinking and existing, there are a couple of ways to help co-create a new paradigm. One is to create a good product and then protect it with patents and lawsuits while trying to make as much profit as one can to exist within the paradigm, while ensuring that very little changes for the duration of that individual's lifetime. Let the technology carry over to someone else. In this sense, it takes much longer for paradigm shifts and changes to occur. The other is to have a vision to co-create a better world, create a great product, and then make the plans for the product available free of charge. In this way, there is the publicity of doing the right thing, and there is the unselfishness in wanting to profit exclusively from the created product or service. By making the plans or the visions of the product and or service available to the world freely, the technology can expand that much more quickly and become the new paradigm that much more quickly. One man has demonstrated this, as has also modified the above 2 ways so that they can work together. Many are familiar with Tesla Motors CEO Elon Musk. He is also co-founder of PayPal and CEO of SpaceX, a space exploration company. Musk is working on numerous forward-thinking projects at this time. So many of them, he claims, that he does not have the time or the personal energy to devote to all of them. He has proposed a method of transportation called the Hyperloop. A link to a PDF document put out by Musk outlining his vision with this technology and seeking help from outsiders will be in the show summary. The technology being used by Tesla Motors in their automobiles appears to be shattering records while advancing the use of alternative fuels for transportation. Musk has also made these plans available to the world in the hopes that they will be used for good intent. It is not enough, however, and Musk is the first to admit it. He knows that he cannot deliver this kind of change fast enough to the planet. So what is he doing about it? He's following a very anti-corporate approach to the solution. As opposed to attempting to control and dominate the technology for a solution, he is making it available to the public in the hopes that others will use the model to get the technologies available to the world even more quickly. An article in the Washington Post by Drew Harwell on January 14th writes that Tesla Motors billionaire chief executive Elon Musk walked into the enemy territory of Detroit this week, with the electric car maker quickly losing charge. Chevrolet's all-electric Bolt, which some called a Tesla killer, promised a mass-market rollout matching what Tesla's future cars would offer and cost. In the face of competition, one might expect Musk to be worried. The article describes his first appearance in Detroit, also known as the Motor City, in over 2 years. Musk's response was perhaps surprising to the knowledge of high-powered competition. Musk was alleged to have said that they are not doing enough and that they should do more. And as far as competition is concerned, he is telling them to bring it on. The article continues. Musk is chalking it up as a victory for his mission to accelerate the advent of electrical cars and, as he said, make a difference in the world. It's sort of counterintuitive because why do we want all these competitors, said Musk during a Tuesday appearance at the Automotive News World Congress in Detroit. But he reiterated the real environmental benefits will only happen if the big car companies make risky decisions to make electric vehicles. I hope they do. We'll try to be as helpful as we can. Critics have claimed that Tesla will be hurt by competition. This kind of thinking comes, of course, from people who are addicted to the old paradigm idea of competition as opposed to sharing. There was also the issue of rapidly decreasing oil and gas prices that will hurt the adoption of the electric car. The article notes that Musk said gas prices would be low for a long time, which could hurt electric cars' adoption by some price-conscious drivers. But he said there would still be a huge societal pressure amid a host of environmental benefits, pushing drivers away from fossil fuels. Electric cars, he added, would still be cheaper to run than gas-powered cars, even with today's bottom-barrel gas prices. And in more than 30 other countries where Tesla sells and gas is more expensive, the change in fuel prices will make even less of a dent in demand. Said Musk, some degree of success is assured, it's only a question of magnitude. In another article posted on CNET.com on January 17th by Donna Tam, she writes that Elon Musk, the man who's determined to move our civilization to Mars, will also tackle creating an internet in space. The CEO of Tesla Motors and SpaceX said Friday night that he will use a fleet of satellites to make the internet speedier and bring it to those without access, according to media reports at a private event in Seattle. Details of the plan were shared before the event with Bloomberg. While this new network would initially benefit only those of us on Earth, Musk said he has much loftier plans, using the profits to build a Martian city. We see it as a long-term revenue source for SpaceX to be able to fund a city on Mars, Musk told Bloomberg. To create the new network, SpaceX will build and launch roughly 4,000 satellites orbiting about 750 miles above Earth, according to another source in the article, GeekWire. Musk is showing himself to be a huge supporter of information and truth relating to Mars. The article continues by offering that Musk is known for his determination to colonize Earth's relatively nearby neighbor, with plans to put humans on Mars by the mid-2020s. SpaceX is also one of 2 companies awarded contracts by NASA to ferry astronauts to the International Space Station, beginning as early as 2017. His latest project, however, is focusing on using the internet in space as another way of getting his Mars projects underway. The article notes the following about Musk's space internet project. The network would take at least 5 years to develop and cost around $10 billion, he told Bloomberg. Instead of sending data through a network that uses fiber optic cables, the proposed system would bounce signals from satellite to satellite. Musk said the setup would also connect underserved communities that don't have net access. The project will be overseen at SpaceX's new Seattle headquarters. Longtime CVN listeners will be able to read between the lines and see that what is happening right now is a process of accelerated but at the same time slow disclosure. There are already technologies available to get people to Mars. It has already been alleged that there are communities existing on Mars and also on the Moon. Those in the know are just waiting, some more eagerly than others, for the truth to be made known to all. In the meantime, announcements by companies like Tesla and SpaceX represent the mental shift that many will need to see our world transforming, and they will need to see these announcements to help them make the larger jump to what is going on as that information becomes available. For some, the magnitude of success is defined as profits and shareholder returns. For some others, and at this time it appears that Musk is one of them, success is defined as taking the planet and humanity into consideration ahead of corporate profits. Companies like Tesla may lose some profits in the short term, but as more awaken and understand the value of what Musk and Tesla are modeling, people may be willing to put their money into companies and products that are demonstrating a move away from corporate profit focus. And this, in the long run, may actually be the model that creates future corporate profits. To Skype or not to Skype? According to Kim.com, it is emphatically not to Skype. An article on RT.com on January 22nd has reported that Kim.com has launched a public beta version of his latest project, with which he aims to wipe out Skype. The video calling service is called Mega Chat, is to be encrypted to ensure secure communications for all its users. The program will be introduced starting with video calling today, the 22nd, said the German-born entrepreneur on Twitter. The new program registered 500,000 calls in just a matter of hours. .com has said the new product, which has been developed by the Mega Conspiracy team, will be a Skype killer and hopes to end the domination of the Microsoft-based product. Revelations over the past year from Edward Snowden have indicated that Skype has been in cooperation with the NSA to allow monitored communications. MegaChat's main selling point is that it is encrypted from both ends, which allegedly will prevent monitoring of communications. The RT article was reporting that within a few hours of the launch, a Twitter message came from .com saying, already over 500,000 calls within just a few hours. Thank you for using MegaChat. Apparently, the future plans of MegaChat, according to .com, include a video messaging service and also a video conference call service. .com's resistance to the status quo has landed the entrepreneur in trouble with the law. It was about 3 years ago when .com was arrested in Auckland, New Zealand, and his Mega Upload website, which allowed downloading of films by the public, was shut down. Over to health news now. We take a look at an article dealing with one of the mineral deficiencies often experienced by people. A number of sources are reporting that with the recent influx of energies upon the planet, many have been reporting various illnesses or related energetic conditions popping up over the last month or so. This information may be beneficial for some to explore, as it may assist them in finding a bit more balance. An article by Dr. Mercola from his website on January 19th looks at magnesium and its importance to the body. Mercola writes that magnesium is a mineral used by every organ in your body, especially your heart, muscles, and kidneys. If you suffer from unexplained fatigue or weakness, abnormal heart rhythms, or even muscle spasms and eye twitches, low levels of magnesium could be to blame. If you've recently had a blood test, you might assume it would show a magnesium deficiency, but only 1% of magnesium in your body is distributed in your blood, making a simple sample of magnesium from a serum magnesium blood test not very useful. Most magnesium is stored in your bones and organs, where it is used for many biological functions. Yet, it's quite possible to be deficient and not know it, which is why magnesium deficiency has been dubbed the invisible deficiency. In his article, article, Mercola has a link to an interview given by Dr. Carolyn Dean, author of The Magnesium Miracle. In a transcript of the interview available through Mercola's website, Dean offers that magnesium is the most important mineral in the body. It may not be the mineral that there's the most of, but it's the most important. It's a mineral that activates the muscles and the nerves. It's a mineral that attaches to adenosine triphosphate to create the energy in the body. Without magnesium, you don't have energy. It helps to digest proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. It actually is a building block for RNA and DNA. It's a precursor for neurotransmitters like serotonin. It does so much in the body, but we haven't heard much about it. It seems that big medicine and big pharma have been perpetuating more of their lies upon humanity. Where people were told to consume more calcium, they were not informed of the potential side effects of too much calcium without the proper balance of magnesium. In her interview, Dean notes some health regulators as suggesting a 2-part calcium and 1-part magnesium daily intake. But her research suggests that it should likely be more of a 1-to-1 ratio. Mercola continues in his article, writing that magnesium is often thought of primarily as a mineral for your heart and bones, but this is misleading. Researchers have now detected 3,751 magnesium-binding sites on human proteins, indicating that its role in human health and disease may have been vastly underestimated. Magnesium is also found in more than 300 different enzymes in your body and plays a role in your body's detoxification processes, making it important for helping to prevent damage from environmental chemicals, heavy metals, and other toxins. At least 22 areas have been identified in the article that magnesium deficiency triggers or causes, and it is claimed that these are scientifically proven. These conditions are anxiety or panic attacks, asthma, blood clots, bowel disease, cystitis, depression, detoxification, diabetes, fatigue, heart disease, hypertension, hypoglycemia, insomnia, kidney disease, liver disease, migraines, musculoskeletal conditions including back pains, nerve problems, osteoporosis, PMS, infertility, obstetrics and gynecology, Raynaud's syndrome, tooth decay, numbness and tingling, muscle contractions and cramps, seizures, personality changes, abnormal heart rhythms, and coronary spasms. When you go to a doctor, the doctor will treat the illness or the condition, but will not look at the symptoms. Taking purely a magnesium supplement is not quite that easy. Mercola advises the importance of balancing magnesium with calcium and also with vitamins D and K2. The article offers a couple of suggestions for improving magnesium intake, including juicing green vegetables and taking Epsom salt baths. It is advised to read the article fully before deciding on a course of action that may work for you. The article advises to avoid supplements containing magnesium stearate, for example, because it is a potentially harmful additive. Mercola recommends that women should be getting about 315 milligrams and that men should be getting about 410 milligrams of magnesium daily. In an announcement for this week, I'd like to start by welcoming those of you who were successfully able to find the broadcast for this week. This is assuming, of course, that the technical details on our end were all completed satisfactorily. The tests have been successful and it appears we are ready to go. Along with a new platform, CVN is also proud to unveil a new, fresher, more professional logo that may resonate with listeners who felt the previous logo just was not professionally enough for a news outlet. I am inclined to agree. The previous logo originally was to be something more for me personally, a vision of what my other service for humanity, my visionary consulting, was to bring to humanity and our planet. This new logo, designed by Lynn Ferrari, captures in a more simplified way the energies and journalistic vision that CVN was created to represent for the future. In looking at the logo, one will notice what looks like a frequency wave running from left to right through the Earth. It also has a crystalline color to it. Nikola Tesla has stated that if you want to understand the universe, think in terms of frequency and vibration. This logo captures that essence. Behind this, there are radio or communication waves, symbolic of the communication going out to our galactic families, but also coming back to us from them. If one looks closely enough, there is a hint of violet in the color, symbolic of the violet flame of healing for all upon our planet. As opposed to a universe filled with blackness, the universe imposed on a lighter blue color is symbolic not only of the universe out there, but that there is a light that is shifting human and planetary consciousness towards birthing a new galactic star nation. It is a crisper and cleaner logo, I feel, and I express my gratitude to Lynn for the visionary and creative ideas she brought to the work and service that CVN represents for humanity, our planet, and our galactic families. Perhaps this logo will invite people to have more confidence and faith in the role that CVN is attempting to fulfill as a service that not only informs, but also empowers people in using their own discernment when it comes to the information that is tossed out at humans worldwide. It is a service that hopes to help teach people to recognize what cabal members say that can be misinterpreted while leading unknowingly to further enslavement, while also teaching them to learn how to ask the right questions, or at least better questions. This, of course, takes courage, and CVN, through its service worldwide and beyond, hopes to continue demonstrating to awakening souls that there are tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and millions of people worldwide who have already awakened or are in the process of awakening to the lies, frauds, and crimes that have been committed against humanity and our planet. To empower people to action, but action that is peaceful, compassionate, courageous, and sets the example that co-creates the new earth in a way that is not reflective of the historical negative energies that have caused so much harm. It is my creation that this new logo will reflect an energy that will make people want to share the newscast and perhaps help it grow in the future to other forms of media such as video or television. If the universe and all those who are co-creating life-affirming human and planetary change feel that CVN is to someday serve in a different capacity, that bridge will be crossed in that future moment of now. And in this week's final words. Over the last 6 to 7 weeks, since the beginning of December, you have been listening to me offer various insights in the final words. I can appreciate that perhaps some of you get tired of hearing only my voice mixed in with some audio reports here and there. I'd like to close off this week with 2 separate audio clips that I hope will resonate with many of you. The first audio clip addresses something that more and more humans will have to address in the coming moments of now as we choose to raise our vibrations higher and step more clearly and strongly into our service to humanity and our planet. Awakening to all that is going on is only part of the process. Learning to release and heal residual energies of negativity is also part of the process. In 2008, while attending the annual conference of Patricia Cota Robles in Lake Louise, I offered an apology to the women of the world on behalf of the men in attendance and men around the world for all that women have had to endure because of men. Since then, I have written a series of apologies to many marginalized groups around the world, including to those whom I consider to be the global cabal. These appear on my website, and a link will be in the show summary. Jeff Bird, host of Radio Mysterium, is offering an apology to the world. He is calling it a cosmic apology, a message of healing that may also resonate with people worldwide.
Somehow, through a series of events, you found a way to wake up out of the slumber you were in. Since then, you have opened your mind, researched, and discovered that this world is completely different than what you've been told. This is a gift, of course, maybe even a spiritual experience, but it can feel like a curse. Some of your friends and even your family don't want to listen to you anymore. People call you crazy, but as you know, the inmates are running the asylum, only to be told you're wrong by those who have never even taken a peek at the evidence. You feel isolated and burdened by the heaviness of this new information. At times, no one wants to talk about these issues with you because they think you're being too negative, when the truth is your intention is quite positive. But you can't put the genie back in the bottle, you can't unlearn this information, and you feel a moral imperative to be a part of the solution, but no one seems to want your help. They attack the messenger because they simply don't want what you're saying to be true. They cannot deal with the implications of that. Well, I'm here to tell you this. I am sorry that you've had to go through this. I am sorry that critical thinking, open-mindedness, intuition, and your courage to speak has caused you this pain. I'm sorry that what you have had to experience amounts to psychological trauma. I'm sorry that simple-minded, ignorant people have used gaslighting and inversion to paint you as the crazy one when their version of normal is my version of hell. I have a feeling you know what I mean. I am genuinely proud to be in the same dire predicament as you are. Let me be the first one to apologize to you on behalf of the human race. Not because it's my fault, but because someone needs to. It's not fair, and it's not any version of justice that I know. I hope the frequency that I'm sending says even more than the words. Here's the actual truth. You are courageous. You are a moral human being who has the ability to empathize with other people, animals, and the earth itself. No matter what your religion, political party, or lack thereof, you listen to your conscience, and I thank you for it. You have sacrificed money, friendship, love, success, and even persecution for the simple crime of seeking out the truth in a world absolutely enamored by lies. We are not just thinking creatures, we are feeling creatures as well. That is a source of strength, though, not a source of weakness. You refuse to conform to any archetype in order to remain a free, sovereign, unique individual, and that you are. Your power is amplified by the struggle, not drained by it. You are powerful because this has been so hard. So be it. You are not alone. You are, in fact, needed. You have an important purpose here. No matter how persuasive the argument to the contrary, you do have the ability to make a difference. Think of the butterfly effect, turning into a mighty wind right now at the turn of the tide. I appreciate so much your stepping up to the challenge, and I want to thank you personally for finding a way to contribute toward this benevolent cause against malevolent forces. No, you cannot single-handedly control the outcome of this struggle, but you can control your part of the effort completely. Once you're on the frequency of the solution, you cannot therefore be on the frequency of the problem. That is why, no matter how small the act, you are a large part of the play. I'm using my own intuition that somehow, some way, this message will find its way to you like a message in a bottle randomly cast into a dark, turbulent sea. I trust that you feel the same electrical surge called synchronicity. I am with you, and even that by itself means you are not alone. This is Jeff Bird with Radio Mysterio.
The second audio clip I intentionally saved for last, as I suspect it is going to have a powerful effect upon many of you. It comes from the San Francisco Globe on January 17th. Former World Championship Wrestling and World Wrestling Entertainment Champion Marc Mero is, according to the article, a promoter of positive change, and that's exactly what he wants to bring to the audiences to which he speaks. Growing up, Mero didn't surround himself with the best of people. This led him to experiencing a lot of tragedy later on in life when many people he knew died because of their dangerous lifestyles. Knowing that he couldn't go on enduring the loss of loved ones without doing anything, Mero took action and became a public speaker. Mero primarily speaks in front of young people in hopes that he can be a positive influence on them at early stages in their lives. It's obvious from watching the video that Mero's words are hitting home for more than one student in the room. This segment of his presentation has Mero talking about his past with his mother and what he wishes he would have done differently. Powerful, as you are about to discover. Create a wonderful week. Until our next moment of now, here is Marc Mero.
My mom would be at all my sporting events. Let's say I was playing football. My mother would be on the sidelines, and let's say the action on the field went one way. My mother would run along with it. She's like, Mark, get on, get on. I'd be like, oh my gosh. I'd be on the field, we get in a huddle with the guys. They go, Mark, is that your mother? I go, no, I never saw her before. But seriously, you guys can relate to that. My mom, she really empowered me to become special in sports. See, the greatest gift my mother ever gave me, she believed in me. I've overdosed on drugs on 3 occasions where I should have been dead, but I believe I was kept here for a reason. You show me your friends, I will show you your future. How do I know this? Because I hung out with losers, I became the biggest loser of them all, because I gave up everything I dreamt about as a little boy, because of who I chose to surround myself with. My friends would drive me home at 2, 3, 4 in the morning. We'd be drunk and high in the car. We'd pull up in front of the house, my buddies would go, Mark, 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 the light's on. I go, oh man, my mother's up. See, my mom wouldn't go to bed until she knew her son was still alive. I'd walk in, she'd say, hi Mark, how was your night? It was good, Mom, I'm just going to go to bed. She goes, can I talk to you just for a minute? I go, Mom, I'm tired, I'm just going to go to bed. She goes, Mark, I haven't seen you all day and all night. Can I please talk to you? I go, man, just leave me alone. You bug me. I slammed my bedroom door. I'm the one person who believed in me. I was on a worldwide tour, and I was wrestling overseas in Japan. After my wrestling match, I went upstairs to my hotel and I fell asleep. There was a knock at my door at 3 o'clock in the morning. I got out of bed, I looked through the safety window of the hotel door, and I could see it was a Japanese promoter. So I opened the door and he said, Mark, you need to call home. There's been an emergency. So I got on the hotel room phone. I called back to the United States. I said, hey, what's going on? He said, Mark, I don't know how to tell you this. I go, just tell me what happened. All of a sudden he started crying. I go, Mark, I can't tell you. Just say it. I said, Mark, your mother died. I just threw the phone down. I ran out of my hotel room. I took the elevator to the lobby. When the doors opened up, I just ran out into the street. And I remember looking up and just saying, Bob, I am so sorry. I flew home for her funeral, and I was so nervous to walk up to her casket. So I just stood way in the back. I remember just kept thinking to myself, I'm like, Mom, please wake up. Please get up. And then I finally got the nerve to walk up to her, and she was so beautiful. She was dressed in white. I mean, she looked like an angel. I said, Mom, you are my hero. Everything I am, everything I hope to be was because of you. You loved me so much. You gave me a life. You worked 2 jobs. You're the only one that ever believed in me. How did I repay her? By getting drunk? By getting high? By getting stupid? By hanging out with losers? For what? All she ever wanted to do was talk to me. If you have a mother or a father, tell them how much you love them. See, my whole life was about being rich and famous. That's all I cared about. I had to win the race. I had to win the race at the expense of my marriage, my family, my friends. For what? To be all alone in this world? That's not how it's intended to be. Life is not about winning the race. Life is about finishing the race. And how many people we can all help finish this race. How we can start being kinder to each other. How we can help the students that are going through adversity right now. How we can stop with the name calling and hurting other people. Because in the end, it may be you that needs help to finish the race. Because I learned what is truly important, and that is how precious this gift of life is, and how quickly it can be taken away. See, I no longer live in time. I live in moments. I'm not worried about tomorrow. See, it's not what's in your pocket that matters. It's what's in your heart that truly matters. Love is just a word until somebody comes along and gives it meaning. You are the meaning.
So that is the unfolding consciousness news around the world this week. Cosmic Vision News is a part of the InLight Universal group of programs. Links to stories used in this broadcast are published in the show summary on the blog at cosmicvisionnews.com, on the CVN Facebook page, also on Twitter, Google+, LO, LinkedIn, FaceUni, and Scene. Thank you for sharing your time with me. I'm Jeffrey West, reminding you that we are here to heal, not harm, love, not hate, and we are here to create, not destroy. Until our next moment of now, stay grounded in love, hold the vision of light and peace in your heart, keep your eyes to the skies, disclosures unfolding all around you. Namaste.